Hello and welcome to Thinking Out Loud. I'm your host, Gloria Politis of LTC, and I have three guests in the studio with me today, and they are all from the Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance. GLILA. We all call it GLILA, so I have to think twice. But I'm Jean Stelkin, who is the Protestant campus minister at UMass Lowell, and Farouk Taufik, okay, with the Islamic Society of Greater Lowell,
right,
and Frank Baskin, who is with the Jewish Temple Emmanuel of the Merrimack Valley. GLILA is going to have a wonderful Thanksgiving event coming up, but I'm assuming that many of you probably don't know what GLILA is, so we're going to start by talking about GLILA and what it is.
Sure. So why don't we start with one of the ways we start our meetings, our monthly meetings. We have a mission statement, and when we start our meetings with the mission statement, after a moment of silence and other things, we read it together. So let's all read it together.
Okay. The Greater Lowell Interfaith Leadership Alliance, GLILA, is open to and welcome leaders from diverse faiths within the Greater Lowell area. Our unity is based on our shared purpose of building relationships of mutual respect among the members, the communities they represent, and area faith communities. Our mission is to broaden our understanding of faith traditions and to support each other's work and faith journey. Our commitment is to be a united force for spiritual and moral leadership and cooperation within the Greater Lowell community, and to promote dialogue among faith traditions. The Alliance what's its history? How did it get started? So.
I think it goes way back to the Lowell Council of Churches, and I don't exactly remember what years those were. And
I wasn't around then, so what
I wasn't either. This is way before us. But
oh my goodness.
I know that I was there when we actually transitioned to the name GLILA. I don't remember what we were before, but we were very intentional about naming it. We wanted something that sounded good if you used just the acronym, but also we were very careful that it wasn't just another clergy organization, because we wanted to make sure it was open to all leaders in faith communities, and the last few years we've also broadened it to community agencies, so people who are interested in this kind of work and our justice work and so forth, and in learning more about each other's faith, have been invited to be part of that as well. So again, it's not just a clergy group. It's open because not everybody has the same kind of leadership roles in different faith communities, and we wanted it to be open. So that's a piece of that. That's not a lot of the history, but I know that we were very intentional about naming it.
So you're there from the beginning?
Yes, pretty much. Yes,
right.
I was from this. Yes. But don't ask me what year.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
I won't ask you.
But and we also spent a lot of time, and you probably all remember, working on this mission statement.
Sure did. Yeah.
And we have fine-tuned it over the years because something wasn't working for somebody in the group, and so we went back. Not to the TOL drawing board, but just because we wanted it to speak to everybody who was there and be something they could live into.
Right.
Well, originally what happened was there was mainly Christian leaders, priests, etc. Then the Jewish community came in, and the Cambodian Buddhist and Islamic also. So it became truly an interfaith group. And the way I got started was our superintendent of police, I don't know if you remember him, but Ed Davis.
Oh, yes.
He contacted me and he said, there's a good group here, you ought to go there and join them.
You never know.
And he was looking for some help from us and also from the Cambodian community to bring the youth together. So he said, see what you can do with this group. And so that's how I got started with this. And Steve Fisher was our president at the time, and he really nurtured me into this community. And I really enjoy being here simply because I learned a lot of things from other faiths. Otherwise I would not have any contacts. I would just huddle together with the Muslims and that's it. But We had in our mosque, we had the Glila, not only a festival of the lights and everything else, but also we had a meal. So we went to Jewish temple, and there we had our program. Then we got in our car and came to the mosque, and we had the feast over there. So it was really eye-opener for all of us, because we have never seen so many people from different faiths in our mosque before. And all of these people that they never been to the mosque, now they got a chance to see how we pray, what we do, and everything else. So Glila was really important to our community, and personally to myself, to learn about other faiths.
Right.
And that particular one, were you there for that, Frank?
Yes.
Because it was on a Friday night, so we did the Shabbat service at the temple, but we had other faiths too. I remember
right.
Hindu and so forth came up and did presentations, and then so we were also witness to Friday prayers at the
Correct.
mosque, and then we were supposed to sit by someone whose
Yes.
faith we didn't have, and I brought some students from the university to that, and I couldn't get them to leave. It was time to go, and they were still busy talking. So it was how much they got out of it.
It is important, yeah.
So Frank, you were going to
So
say
I got
yes,
involved. I got involved when two members of our congregation, Temple Emmanuel, had been involved in Galila for many, many, many years, and they were moving out of state. And they asked me if I would get involved, and I said, "Okay, well, I'll give it a try, see what it's like." And when I came in, what I found was a group of folks from different faiths, and they were still respecting each other's faith. That people bring their faith into the group and talk about how they practice it, and that's respected when we have our services, like our Thanksgiving service. Well, people of different faiths who will recite something from their faith that's important to them, and it's accepted as it is. We don't try to change it, and we're not trying to meld the different faiths to create a whole new one. So that really impressed me about the group, and that's still a feature of the group, of the organization.
Right, and that's an important thing, I feel. I myself am Catholic, but I sometimes say with a small c, more universal kind of approach to it. But and I find that with Glila, I'm kind of not an official member, but I really enjoy being part of the events and all of that, because it is important to respect that. And we know so little sometimes about other faiths. And I know I've talked to some people in my parish, and one of them, was talking about converting Muslims. And I said, well, you don't have to convert them, they already believe that Jesus is a prophet.
That's
and they have a whole chapter on Mary.
Yes, we do.
But we don't know that unless we're
Right.
out there and looking at it.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Oh, go
No,
ahead.
I was just going to say, it's interesting that you still find people who want to convert someone who already has a sound faith, and so we're not trying to do that with
Right, exactly.
We
We're-
learn from each other, really.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's-
exactly.
And one of our neighbors at the mosque, the mosque was at the in a complex where a lot of offices were, and whenever we had Glila meetings in our mosque, I invited all the neighbors to come and join us. And this gentleman here, he was my good friend, so I always went to him and said, "Why don't you come?" He says, "If I went there, my wife will kill me." I said, "What are you talking about?" Oh, he says, he told me never to associate with Muslims and everything else. I said, "Why?" Well, she has that phobia about Muslims. And so I kept after him. Then one year we had the open house, and he brought his wife. And she would not leave. She was so happy with, just, oh, I never know that Muslims are like this and like that, and like the food, and I like their philosophy, and they're so nice people. So it is important that, Glila bring everybody together,
Oh,
and
it's
I'm so
true.
happy about that.
Yes. One of the things I've learned, I'm also part of a group called Daughters of Abraham, which is
Yes.
Jewish, Christian, Muslim women. It's a book group. But I learn every time how little I know. I think I know something, and maybe I know a little bit, but there's an enormous amount that I don't know. Not only about my own, but about everybody else too. And that's just scratching the surface. So it's a really big opportunity. And one of the reasons that I'm part of the group and I'm committed to the group is that I think it's desperately needed in our world today, this kind of conversation and the kind of breaking the stereotypes that you were just talking about, Farouk.
Yeah.
It's really crucial.
Right, right. And we have made some progress. I remember when I was in grammar school, this was before Vatican II, it was like, you know, it would be a sin to go to a Protestant church. You couldn't even attend somebody's wedding. And it was like, we're all God's children.
I also found that this is a group that can be very supportive, so that, for example, when there was a bombing at the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh, there were members of the group who either called me or emailed me or at a meeting who I was greeted with hugs because people were so sorrowful about what had happened. And that's happened when there have been bombings and shootings at other people's faith at their places. And I found that's really a nice thing from this group to have that.
Absolutely.
That's true. After the Mother Emanuel 9 shootings, massacre, several of us from GLILA went to Bethel AME Church and had a memorial service there too. So several of us were represented at that, representing GLILA, but also saying we needed to be present at that congregation.
Right, right.
And actually, our University Police Chief had been down to the church after the massacre and brought pictures back of the place. So we had those there too. Right. What you were just talking about, though, Farouk, reminds me of one of our earlier services we had, which was, if my neighbor is a Martian, what should I do?
Yeah.
And we had leaving our comfort zones. I think you were there for that.
Right, I
overcome
was.
Our fears. And part of that is just, what are the stereotypes? What are the assumptions we make about someone else? And you had a story, Frank, even about how you were welcomed at the camp, where you were working. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Oh, it can't. Oh, so yeah, so I was late teenager, early 20s, and I was the counselor at overnight summer camp. And I came from Philadelphia, which has a huge Jewish population. I never thought about being Jewish that much. And public schools are closed on Jewish holidays. So I went up to this camp, which is in northeastern Pennsylvania, and a lot of the people there were from very discrete communities, and I didn't know that some of them had never met anyone who was Jewish. And so when I came up there, they kind of really wondered, did I speak English? Would I have a tail or a horn?
Right.
People really looked to see if I, this is Pennsylvania,
different.
this is not, and so they had a lot of activities during the summer, and one of their biggest activities was every July 25th, they had Christmas in July. And so they all kind of wondered, what do we do about Frank? And so in the craft shop, people were always making gifts to give each other and so forth. And so each cabin sat at a table in the big dining room. And what someone did was, because this was the camp for physically handicapped kids, they had straws that you could bend. This is before it became commonplace to have bent straws. And someone made a Star of David out of these straws and hung it over the table where I sat.
Oh, that's lovely.
So,
Yeah.
Well, we had a rabbi in Emmanuel at one time, and she was being ordained at the time. So she decided that she's going to have two people from different faiths. And she chose me as Muslim, and I think you were there as a Christian. So what she was going to do was to take the scroll that was there, and after they read it, they're going to put it back in the what was a sheet or something like that. So when we did that, she and I went up there and put it in a glove, and I, as a Muslim, we do that. Anytime you have a holy book, I kiss it. So I kiss Torah, and the entire congregation went, he's a Muslim. He honors our book. They were really amazed. I didn't realize that Torah is one of our books too,
Right. I mean,
Yeah,
all descent
absolutely.
from Abraham.
Yeah. So this was something they learned and I learned too, because they read a story in the from the Torah. It was about Abraham, and I went home and looked it up in the Quran, exact word to word, same story. How the two angels came down and sat with him, and then his wife came and she gave them the food and everything else, so they talked about it. So word to word, the same thing.
And so, Farouk, what you just did replicated what we do when we open up the Torah and read from it.
Yes.
Either we take a prayer book or a pen or something and touch the part that's being read, and then we kiss it.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep. There's so much we have in common.
So much in common, and that's what GLILA does. Is we bring out what is common amongst ourselves, and how can we get together.
Right.
And it was very good.
Yes.
So we meet monthly, usually the first Thursday of the month, except I guess January we're going to meet the second Thursday of the month, but because of very close to New Year's.
Right.
And we sometimes have guests. Today we had a couple of guests who are working as partners with the church where we were hosted today. One is doing composting, and one is at the Billerica House of Corrections, and those were very interesting. We had somebody talking about Census 2020 today too, plus our usual spiritual nourishment. We have spiritual nourishment, intellectual nourishment, and physical nourishment too. That's
Of
always
course.
part of all
We have a
those-
little bit of breakfast.
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
That's good.
So it's a really rich time together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and prayer time. I mean, lift up prayers and concerns and so
And
forth.
these meetings rotate, so maybe in churches this time, but next time maybe in the temple or at a mosque or whatever, So we just rotate around
Yes.
all the communities.
Right. So you get
We
to
had,
see.
as a matter of one function we had was in a Hindu temple in Billerica, and they were so amazed, And our people too, because all the Christians and Muslims and everybody came to the Hindu temple, realized, how they pray and everything else, and they had brought in so much food, unbelievable.
Yes, we were going to have just a light meal that afterwards.
Right.
I couldn't get my students to leave that night either.
I'll bet. Free food.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Yeah.
So there are many events that
Well,
you
two
have.
main, well, with the monthly meetings, and then
Yeah.
two signature, I guess you could call it,
Right,
signature
right.
events, the Thanksgiving gathering and the spring gathering. And the spring gathering started out as services against genocide.
Yeah.
So we had one against the Holocaust, the Cambodian genocide, which was held in the Cambodian temple, and the Armenian genocide, which was held in the Armenian church, and we had one against Rwanda, which was held in one of the Catholic churches, Tingsboro there. And then we kind of wondered, we did sort of turned them into kind of generic services against violence. And then the last couple of years, like this one, we did the If My Neighbor is a Martian, What Should I Do? To really try to get some understanding about each other and getting out of our comfort zones, and we did some story times and so forth.
Right.
And then we had one about, this last one was Our Humanity, My Humility, Our Humanity. I don't know which one that's one of these pages here. But again, I guess that's over.
Did about the environment too.
Yeah, so that's that one. Yes, that's the last one. The My Humility, Our Humanity one. Overcoming obstacles at the welcoming table. Who's in, who's not, kind of thing. And then we did it was really kind of cool. We did a hands-on thing. We had a big square paper, and we each had several colored strips, and we could put them down on the
right.
paper. And then this idea that if we touched somebody else's paper, we had to ask permission, and if they gave permission, fine. If not, they didn't have it. But then we had a really wonderful discussion about where did we feel like we could put the colors? Were they on the edge? Were they in the? And somebody said, "God, was timid. Do I dare put mine out there?" Kind of thing. And so it really opened up. A very simple exercise opened up a really wonderful conversation. But excuse me, what Frank is saying, Farouk is saying about the environment. So we had one on the earth. Our precious earth,
That was a good one.
food for the human family, and then we had one on
This one.
air, breath of life, and we had water, streams of gratitude, and then last year we had fire, rise up, O flames. So, and that one was at the Masjid of Dawoodi Bora in Billerica.
Yeah, I missed that one.
So anyway, and there are various places that we've had these, but it's really important, I think, as Farouk said, to go around to the different sites. And sometimes we go and learn about, not on these big celebrations, but like today we learned more about the church where we were hosting. We've been learning about their history. And then so we have the Thanksgiving ones are really more celebratory. The others will really give us more time to have conversation and to get into a little bit more about what are some of our issues that we're facing and really to try to address some of those.
Right, right. So there is an upcoming event.
Yes, that's November 17th, and I have a flyer here somewhere. Yes, I do, in all my papers. Okay, so here it is.
It's a Sunday.
It's Sunday, November 17th, and it's at Christ Church United of Dracut. And we're gathering at 3 for resource tables and to tour the church, if you'd like to do that. And then at 4, we're having a music festival. This is a little bit different this year because we haven't had a music festival as such.
Right.
We always
We've
have
sung
singing.
there, right, right.
We always have some group singing. And we'll have some other pieces of it too. We'll have a Muslim call to prayer, and we'll have different congregations and different individuals. You have signed up to sing too.
Yes.
Yes,
this
yes,
time. I
so-
sang, 2 years ago?
Yes,
something
you
like
did. Yes, you did.
that. But with a group. Yeah.
And there's, as I said here, accessible venue with free parking, so that's helpful.
That always helps, yes.
And we are asking people to bring non-perishable food items for the Dracut Food Pantry,
Great.
because that's part of the Thanksgiving thing. And one of the things we're doing this year we haven't done before with the resource tables, I guess I should say, giving thanks, even in the face of challenges.
Yes, they always have a great theme.
Yeah, we come up with some
Yeah.
pretty good ones. But in this case, the resource tables are going to be people who are helping the community somehow. International Institute, Food Pantry, Habitat for Humanity, the census. We just got one today. There are several tables that will be out there. And then we want to invite the people who are hosting the tables, like Centers for Hope and Healing, to come up when we bring up the offering of food items. And then we'll want to say thank you to them.
Oh.
So just as a gesture to incorporate, to acknowledge, I guess, the work that people are helping us do in the community.
One of the things that I noticed anyway, our mosque has a youth group, and they're always asking me, when is the next GLILA meeting, next GLILA function, because they love to participate, and they get so involved in it, so this is not just for us adults, but also for the children, coming generation, so they learn from each other. Yeah, so
That's
it's very,
huge.
very good, yeah.
One aspect that I like about this Thanksgiving service every year is there's an opportunity for people of different faiths to come together and present something about that theme, but from their perspective. So from a Jewish or a Muslim or a Protestant or a Catholic tradition or Eastern Orthodox, they'll present some, in this case it's mostly going to be music, but it'll be something from their various faith traditions. And it somehow melds and works together, and yet you have a sense of the differences among folks and how it works together at the same time. So I always look forward to that.
I should say that there are light refreshments to follow, and that's a huge part of actually our gathering. Because when we were at Christ Church United for this one, the Streams of Great Gratitude, the water one, the pastor tells a story that somebody in her church was sitting next to a Muslim and had never met one before, and that was just like in
Okay.
2016. And it was like really eye-opening and helped break down some barriers.
Yeah.
And I think some people have even seen each other in grocery stores
True.
later, and they could acknowledge the person. So it has a potential of having an effect, a beneficial effect past the date of the
Community.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you've been to some.
I have.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. Like last year I missed it. And it was good. Yeah, no, it's just, broadens your perspective and all. And I was lucky, even past Vatican II, when I was actually in the convent for 6 years. And like in Glens Falls, we went to a Seder feast, and we went to various Protestant churches and that kind of thing. So it's just wonderful that we've opened up, and once people do, and once you meet people as people, and not just as, Jewish or whatever, Episcopalian or whatever. It's like we're all human.
That's the important
We're all,
thing.
Yeah.
We are. We do have differences in our
Sure.
rituals and all that,
Sure.
but
Nothing wrong with
so
that.
much in common, really. It's
Yeah.
unbelievable.
Right.
Really, all looking for the same thing, and we have a book of the Month Club, and we get together and talk about mostly spiritual books, and right now we just finished reading one book. Now we on the next one. One of the book was God is Not One, and I said, what is he talking about? Then you read it, find out that everybody has some concept of what God is, and then all together we put it together. Everybody has the same concept, really.
Right. Whether it's called
So,
Allah or God or
exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it was very interesting.
Christians use Allah in Palestine and things like that. So
That's correct.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Right.
It's
For
it's
God,
another-
it's a language more than anything else. So yeah.
I think one of the good things about that book and the ideas that author presents is that he talks about what the differences are. And I think it's important to acknowledge that and to talk about that openly rather than to kind of hide it.
Right.
And there's a temptation, and I think this happens with Galila sometimes, to kind of meld this together and make believe we're all the same, but we're different. And I think we ought to
Yeah.
honor those differences
Exactly,
and respect
yeah.
those differences. But we can't do that unless we're willing to talk about it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That goes to what you said though about the service, our gatherings, our services. Usually, people are able to do what your Muslim prayer doesn't have to be changed
No.
to be in a Christian
Right.
church or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
So
Right.
that you're free to do that, and if you read or sing in Hebrew, that's we don't have to. It doesn't have to be changed, that kind of thing. So it can
Right.
be authentic
Right.
and be still held somehow together.
Right. Right. So we do Psalms and
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we were born from
Sure.
Abraham basically, and in the Catholic
Right.
Church as well. So
Yeah, the last book that we read, it was 2 months ago, and it was by Dalai Lama. And his concept was that we get together as GLILA or Alliance, we not there to convert each other. We just to learn from each other what you are, what I am, and live with that, and
Right.
find out what's common with
Yeah.
amongst us,
I know.
So that's,
we don't want to limit God. I mean,
no,
he can,
no, no, yeah.
or she can express himself, herself in many different ways, and I
Right,
think we ought to
right.
respect that. He's got a little
Exactly,
more
yeah.
imagination than we give him credit for, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's part of our challenge today, is to be able to do that with people so they recognize their differences without trying to convert each other.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Right.
this is the way we practice, this is what our faith is about, and to acknowledge that with each of us. And I think that's kind of an important attribute of Galila, that we try to do that.
Yeah, I often think about it, that I was born in a Muslim home. I never thought about that, which religion I'm going to follow and just study all of them, then pick. No, I was brought up that way, and you were born Christian, so you would follow that, and Jewish and everything else. So everybody has some kind of basic background you come from. You're not that you research it and you're such a scholar that say, okay, I know I found the right religion. No, there's no such thing, really.
Right.
They're all the same. We're all looking for the peace, looking for happiness and peace of mind.
How true.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for coming. This has
pleasure.
been a fantastic
Yeah.
conversation. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
So thank you, Gloria.
you're
thank
welcome.
you. Thank you for making it happen.
So again, thank you, and we're wrapping up here. And thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you next time on Thinking Out Loud.
Thank you.